Top of the morning and the bottom of the evening to you, and welcome to the midweek, very short edition of This Much Is True. The midweek message, essentially. Well, crappy audio, crappy video, make of it what you will. Until Steve comes back from the States, I'm probably stuck with it. I'm not even sure he'll be able to fix it, because it's software related, me think it. Anyway, the temperature is 13 degrees and it's mostly cloudy here in beautiful Ireland. It's that kind of autumnal thing, isn't it? The hour goes back, isn't it, back at the weekend? I like the dark evenings, though. That's in me. For whatever reason, I like dark evenings. So getting over my cold, which my daughter had passed on to me, and subsequently I've passed it on to my beloved, who's been smothering kind of all day with it as well. I personally chose to fight it, as I did with the so-called COVID a few years back. I just get on with it. I just get up and get out and get walking and take Lemsips and fight it. But you can't fight the sweats in the bed in the night time. So how have you been getting on? I hope you've been good. This Much Is True continues to carry on. Sorry, as I said again, for the audio-visual aspect of it. Scary EIRE is doing really well. For those of you that don't know, I've got a side project called Scary EIRE, which is an Irish-centric paranormal podcast going out on the Paranormal UK radio network. And despite its name, it's backed and run in the States, and it has quite a substantial US audience, I'm told. The first episode, you will see a link to it below this video. I hope you enjoy the fruits of my labour. It's been keeping me busy interviewing people in this studio, out of it, and over the phone as well. And indeed, for the next show, which is in approximately 2 weeks' time, I've already got 2 people lined up. In fact, I've interviewed them. One was the lovely, and she is very lovely, a lady called Bernie Jemison. And Bernie essentially has been a newsreader in this city for, well, I won't say how many years, but she's been on any station you care to mention. She gets around, and she had a ghostly story to relate to me from her days, early days with Today FM. I think she's on News Talk now. And then there's a guy who's a bit of a TikTok sensation called Neil Murray. And he, as I said, is on TikTok, but he's a TikTok taxi driver. That's what he's called. And he's garnered a fair bit of, well, I don't know, it's about 37,000 followers, which isn't bad. Every day he kind of tells stories as to, I said kind of, didn't I? Sorry. I'm not going to explain it. About, his observations on life and on the city and on driving and on the way the government is changing the traffic lights. But I managed to pigeonhole him for some paranormal stories that he had, and he was able to pass them on to me. So that's 2 interviews already done. Anybody who's interested at all in that, make contact with me. You can get me on, I'll give you 2 emails to choose from. One is thismuchistrue@protonmail.com, and the other is paranormalireland@protonmail.com. Maybe I'll put links to them as well, or reinstate what they're called at the bottom of this thingy. But I'd love to hear from you. If you regularly look at this, and I know there's not many that do, but like and subscribe, because it does help the algorithm so much. A couple of things I just need to talk about. I'm not going to go paranormally on you, and I'm not going to go ranty against all the stuff I've been ranting at recently, but these are just a few observations. They may be paranormal-esque, but I like to think about them as just things that make you go, So, sadly, a month ago to the day, 4 or 5 doors down, my neighbour took his own life. And I find it hard. I'm talking about it, but I find it very rough, because he was a good neighbour and a gentleman. Now, what I'm about to talk about is sometimes described as, was it by Shakespeare originally, by pathetic fallacy? But I've had 3 incidents happen, the most recent today. So we're walking by my late neighbour's house, myself and my wife, at lunchtime. and he has a kind of there's an ivy bush outside, a bush just outside his front door. And to the left of the front door, on top of the ivy, someone had left a yellow, it wasn't yellow, Mark, get it right. It was a white rose. Remember there was an anti-Nazi group called that years ago, the White Rose? No? Anyway, that's another story. And the white rose was on the top of the ivy. And I went to my wife, boy, that's nice. Somebody, because it has been quiet around his house since he's gone. Somebody must have planted that in memory of him or popped it there on top of the ivy. And then we were coming back, and I said, let me just check to see whether it was... Anyway, I checked and I lifted the rose, but it was organic. It was actually attached to this ivy. It bloomed at this time of year. I know it can happen, but it was a single rose right to the left as you walk in his door on top of the ivy. It's looking so perfect that I thought a mourner had placed it there as a gesture. No, it was organic on its own. One single white. Is it a rose? Well, it was a flower anyway. A white flower. Just amazing. Coincidence? I don't know. Here's another one for you. I may have mentioned this one. Around 2007-ish, I know that because I was on a radio station back then. I can remember where I was coming from. But we had an uncle who was about to pass, and he had been what's called a Christian brother here. I always had a problem with that because I always found it a contradiction in terms, because a lot of us suffered at the hands of the Christian brothers. But he was one of the good ones. He lived to teach, and he'd been in the order all his life since he was a young man, and he was in a school, essentially, or not a school, a home for Christian brothers, and he was waiting to pass away, which he subsequently did. I was on the DART, which is one of our transport systems. It's like a tram thing. And my phone said Uncle Michael had died. And, well, it wasn't a surprise. So I got home. This was Saturday afternoon, and I'd just finished a little radio stint. Got in the door of the house. Everyone else was out. Got upstairs, probably to change my trousers, my top or whatever. Too much information. But I got to the bottom of my bed, and there was a distinct waft of roses. Now you're saying he's getting too old. And no, but that happened. Just this, like when you walk past a bouquet, and it didn't last long. It was ephemeral, isn't that word? It just passed briefly. This beautiful waft of roses. And then the other pathetic fallacy type incident that happened was, and he won't mind me saying this, Steve's mum passed about 3-4 years ago, and I was to give the eulogy in the church, and as I was waiting to go up on the altar, a butterfly came in. I'm not sure if it rested on the coffin. I think it did. It certainly went around. And then during the ceremony and the eulogy, it was on the wall. Now, Nora, God rest her, loved butterflies. That was her symbol. She loved the butterfly. So there you go, folks. 3 incidents, all related to someone who'd passed recently. I don't know what you make of it. Have you got a story like that as well? And you're probably saying, yeah, I'm going to keep it to myself. Well, please share, because content is what makes the world go round. But I am, get us here. This Much Is True at protonmail.com, Paranormal Ireland at protonmail.com. I know you're not going to. Fuck, you never do. Sue is the only one who uses the Proton Mail, and Tara sometimes. But do, and like and subscribe if you like the thing as well. I've already said that, but I don't say it enough. The time is flying. I don't know about you, but it just is flying. Can you believe we're October 23rd already? It's only the other day I was sitting here. In fact, January the 1st, was it January 1st, 2nd? I did the first This Much Is True. Wow. And then I had a 2-month break, but I have been back. I have to say I did lose momentum during that. And people don't, their life doesn't revolve around me talking into his one man in his shed set up. I understand that. I get it. But it wasn't amazing, but it was interesting that, once I got lost, other people decided, get lost as well. And that is what happens. I did mention to you a podcaster who's very dear to me, after 10 years, decided, I'm gone. Out of the blue. Very kind of blunt instrument, kind of, I'm gone. But he had been ruminating on it for some while, whether it was worth pursuing. Because his conclusion was largely, the world is F-U-C-K-E, you know the rest. And, so I think even when he'd been ill there, people drop away from, as I said, they've other things to do. So it's a hard one. And like, when I'd Scary Era, which you'll see, go to the link and listen to it. It may not be your kind of thing, I get it. So, but if you want to have a listen to the gist of it. A friend of mine who I'd already said, listen, we've been talking about this for ages. I said to this guy, who's all into Celtic mysticism and all the rest of it, I said, look, I got a first episode. I've actually gone and done it. Now, as you know, if you've watched some of the videos I've done over the years, I had been playing around with it, but now it's structured and it's deadlined. So I can't hide. Okay, it's audio only, but it's a discipline. And he listened to it. He says, wow, the production. I don't know how you're going to make money out of it, though. I go, fuck. Is that the sole prerogative, is it? To make money. Don't know how you're going to make money out of it, though. Which I thought was rich coming from him, who's been dicking around trying to make money out of an app for the last few years now. Maybe I'm being a bit thin-skinned. But, that was like, don't know how you're going to make money. Hey, listen, there's such things as hobbies. There's such an idea as to having an idea and wanting to just fulfill it for nothing else other than to be fulfilled by the doing. And I found no matter what you do anyway, even if it's not great, you'll reach someone just by doing. I can tell you one thing, nothing comes from nothing. Nothing comes from nothing. So you want to sit on your arse and ruminate about stuff. I've been talking Scary Era for the last few years, and yes, Steve and I have gone and filmed little bits of it here and there, and then I went and I pursued a platform that had an established audience. And a few Skype calls later I was on. I was on what I used to listen to, Paranormal Radio UK. And then the momentum starts. It's amazing. Everything could be in flux or even non-existent for years, apart from talking about it. And then you suddenly do it, and David McGlynn is in studio. Cathal Brewer Barrack's curator is interviewed. Bernie Jemison is on the end of the phone. A guy rings in from Cork with 2 paranormal stories. He is interviewed on the end of the phone. The TikTok taxi driver is interviewed on the phone. I think there was something else as well. It just takes on a life of itself. And I don't like the word interview either. These are like little chats I have with people. So if you do want to come aboard with whatever, you know where to go. I'm not saying it anymore. I'll put the thingies down the end. Have you anything else to say to you? Have I? Oh, yeah, here's how pathetic I've gotten. Let me introduce you to my nature plate. 1 by Conquer, 4 by Shells. Sorry about the video again, it's shit. But anyway. One of these, like, it's falling apart, which I found on a walk. There's a big bush. I don't know what they're called. We used to say, no, I won't say what we used to say. About, anyway, no, it would be too gross. I wouldn't say it. No, I wouldn't. I can't. Sorry. But I was walking by the sea about 2 weeks ago, and I went, not quite nature table, but I want the elements again. So I had sand knocking around, and then I said, well, I'll look for some shells. I had a conker, which I presented to my daughter. She wasn't into it, and I said, can I have that conker back about a week or two later? She said, you're welcome to it. It was on her side locker. And then this thingy. And I said, there you go. And David McGlynn was in here last week because he's a very good friend of mine. He's known as the Squire. He's very awfully. And I said, David, look, I made a nature plate. I cannot replicate his face. It was like, yeah, and really? Just, you had to have been there. It loses a lot in translation. So that's it. I'm cutting down big time on the coffee because I found coffee. I told you I've been quite successful on the drink, apart from a little adventure last Friday. I have been off that since the end of September, the last week of September. So, and I haven't missed it. I told you that as well. But I will be having it on Halloween, I can assure you. And after that, I want to give it a break until my darling daughter comes back from New York, if I can. And she's, please God, will be back around Christmas week. Oh, writing. Will we talk about writing? No, we won't. It's time for me to go to bed now. I wish you very good night. I do hope you make contact with me for whatever reason. This much is true at protonmail.com or paranormal. Did you see that frickin' thing going across the screen again? No? Or paranormalireland at protonmail.com. So long. It's been real. So it has. Will we finish like, remember the 1970s show? They'd finish on a kind of an action shot and then they'd freeze frame it. So, good night, folks.